Hey guys, what's going on? Nick here. I am very excited to be sharing with you today my first ever long play tutorial. In this tutorial, I will be covering my entire design process for the character Mari from Project Resurgence, which is the video game I'm currently working on. So yeah, I hope you guys like this video. I hope you learned something today, and thanks for watching. Alright guys, so this is Mari, and this is the description that was given to me by our writer. It says, a handsome young man with dark tan skin, long blonde hair that he wears up to keep out of his face, and golden eyes. Slimmer than most Ashrad but still muscular, wears a collection of assorted clothing items that gives the impression that he's wearing someone else's rags. So, this character in particular, as soon as I started, I knew exactly what I wanted him to look like. I read that description and some of the other things that were given to me, and I just immediately knew. I was kind of drawing on some inspiration from characters like Jack from Jack and Daxter, as well as Varric from Dragon Age. That was the type of character that I was thinking about. So, to talk a bit about my design process, as you just saw, I start off with a really clean line drawing. It takes me a couple tries to get there. I start really rough, and then I, clean everything up with a hard brush. And once I've got my line drawing in place, I use the pen tool to, cut him out essentially, so that I can give him a nice fill and then color in the colors. I actually learned that pen tool trick from Alex Negrea, however you say his name. I watched one of his videos before, and he uses that to make selections and to paint in everything really nicely on his figures. That's how he gets those really crisp edges. So right now you can see I'm coloring pieces of the character. Like I said, I already kind of knew what he was going to look like. I also had a general idea of the color scheme because he is a member of the Opal Truth, and we already had a design for that. You can see the concept of my generic Opal Truth character in my references page on the upper right. She's the girl with the red scarf thing around her waist. So yeah, I'm just kind of filling in colors that I think look nice. I try to make a 3 or 4 palette color scheme, and then I will separate everything onto different layers, so that way I can just press Control U to get up the hue saturation slider and mess with the colors if I need just some minor tweaking. It's a really easy way to work because you can very quickly change and see the differences in your workflow. Sorry about these pauses as well. I was probably taking a bathroom break or a drink of water or something like that. So yeah, just to talk about how long this whole piece took me, it was about, I think, 8 or 9 hours to complete the entire piece from sketch to final, and this is sped up to about a half hour, just so you guys know. I'm trying different things here with color metals. I wasn't sure if I wanted to go with more of a goldish copper metal or a silver metal. And then a character always has to have that one little accent color that will just make his clothing pop, and I chose this sort of turquoise color. I thought it looked nice with the rest of his earthy tones. So Mari's described as a gearhead. It's sort of like techie you know, tinkerer type character. Um, he's, I think, going to have his own sort of special weapon as well. But I thought it would be cool, instead of having a scope on the weapon, to have some sort of like scope or magnification glass on top of his head. Alright, right here, what happens in my workflow is I will submit things to my boss, and we will discuss what things need to either be changed or added to make the character either look better or fit more with the lore. So right now I'm going back in with the drawing and revising and adding some of those additions that he suggested. Right now I'm just cleaning up. Oh, alright, so we discussed that the jacket and the pants and everything were a bit too brown. His whole getup was a bit too brown, so I tried a couple different styles of jacket, as you can see here. We eventually decided on that sort of black jacket, red accent color look. But I gave him a couple options. It's always good to give your boss a couple options just so that they can actually see where your head is going. Alright, so now that we got our color palette down, I'm starting the painting process. And with my colors, I generally go a little bit darker than 50% gray. And I sort of work in my highlights and my darks. I don't like to go completely neutral because it's a bit hard for me to see my values that way. So I obviously really like characters, and faces are very important, so you'll see that I'm spending a lot of time on the face, using references from different people I found online to make this guy look as realistic as I possibly can, while still being an imaginary character. So I'm just adding details here, you know, popping out some of the highlights, and I am flicking my line layer on and off so that I can see what's underneath. I'm not one of those people that paints over top my line layer. I tend to like to just have my painting underneath, the lines on top, just as a guide. I got this cool new brush. I forget where I got it, but I found a brush that works similarly to the, you know, regular round brush with transfer on, but it's more of a rectangular shape, and it's got a bit of noise to it, so that things like cloth and, you know, jeans and leather and that kind of stuff have a bit of a texture to it. At this point, I still have all of my different pieces separated. I think fairly soon I'll end up just merging everything. I tend to like to work on one layer if I can. If it's a scene, I like to work background, foreground, middle ground sort of thing. That way it keeps it into 3 layers, and I'm not trying to manage a whole bunch of things at the same time. When I'm painting these, I just press the question mark on the layer so that I can keep that layer locked, and that way I can paint right into whichever layer I'm working on without detailing outside of it and making it blurry or anything like that. The edges will stay crisp this way. Still going back into that face. I kind of jump around a lot when I work. Because he has a pretty dark uniform, I had to make sure that the red sash as well as those turquoise pieces really popped out. Right there I was adding a bit of occlusion to his jacket. Pop out those really dark darks where the light wouldn't hit. I was imagining a pretty soft material for his jacket. Still more detailing. I can talk more a bit about some of his actual getup. So, one of the things is that some of his traits. He always had a lifelong curiosity with mechanics, enjoys tinkering and experimenting with them to make them better. He was trained with firearms as part of a defense force for his village and is a crack shot. All of his guns are one of a kind due to his tinkering. Also has some medical and healing knowledge as he picked this up from his mother, who is the town healer. He hates feeling powerless. When trying to solve a problem, he is unrelenting. His flaws is he can be a loose cannon if he thinks he knows better than the person in charge. He can be insensitive in that he highly values honesty and the truth to the point that he'd favor it over feelings. So what you'll find out in this game is that the Opal Truth is sort of the underground faction that is sort of rising up against our other faction, which is called the Shield Legion. So this character, Mari, is part of the Opal Truth. I gave him sort of like a, won't take any crap from anybody sort of smirk to his face. The other thing I wanted to mention was that little pouch on his side is supposed to represent like some healing herbs or something like that he might wear at him at all times. And of course he's got his trusty tool belt, because if something ever needs fixing, he'll always be there to repair it. We have a really cool attachment system in this game as well. So with most of the characters that I design, I have to figure out how their gauntlet would work and how it could be removed to be replaced by another gauntlet. We don't have the kind of game where you find, different pants and shoes and shirts and stuff like that. We have a couple different armor pieces that you can swap out for more powerful pieces, and you'll be able to change out the character's base armor as well. So for him, eventually you might find an upgraded version of what his normal outfit might look like. So for this gauntlet, I was imagining that it stores some sort of battery or something like that. Maybe it's got some sort of magical powers. I thought that bit of glow could add to our diesel punk feel that we've got going on in this game. Make him not so fantasy. I'm really excited to see this character modeled in 3D and in-game. I think he's going to be a pretty cool guy. Still adding some highlights. Yeah, I've got some other big pieces that I'll be working on shortly. I'll be doing more videos like this. If you guys have any specific interests or questions that you'd like me to bring up in the next video, I'd be more than happy to do that. So just let me know on either Facebook or YouTube. Alright, so this is very important. In most of my pieces, I keep a black and white layer on top of all the other layers, and I turn it on and off when I'm not very sure about my values. It's literally the best way to check your values, because you're only comparing one hue, you know, black and white, as opposed to having all the different colors, you know, to manage. Especially with a concept art piece like this on a white background, everything's rather soft lighting. It's not very dramatic, so you really have to make sure that your value changes are subtle. So that's why a black and white layer is super important for something like this. I have a tendency to leave things like hands towards the end. I should get better at doing hands, honestly, and stuff like that. I really like drawing faces, that's why I go into that first. So right here I'm vignetting the character with the concept piece, especially with something like this, that again, that's on a white background. The focal point is the face, so you kind of want the top to be a bit lighter and the bottom to be a bit darker. Also, if you figure the sun or whatever light source is hitting the character from the top to bottom, it's going to gradually go darker as it gets towards his feet. Looking at my references the whole time while I'm doing this, sharpening up some facial features now. Alright, and right now I flipped on a maybe 25% to 40% gray behind him. This way I could hit some things like rim lighting or bounce lighting, and I would more easily be able to see it actually fall on the character. I'm really trying to push these values as much as I can. Detailing the gun, I kind of saved that for last. So if something like his midsection is not in perspective, I will go to the liquify tool, which is in the filter tab up top, and sort of nudge things around to make everything look like he's standing in a real space. It's a very useful tool. Don't feel like you're cheating when you're using it. Using selections to straighten out some areas as well. Detailing his hair, giving it more volume. I'm really only using a couple brushes for this character. If I was doing a landscape, obviously I would use a bit more texture brushes and stuff like that, but for something like this, what's important is the design and that the materials read. So unless it's like a very crackly leather or, you know, sci-fi texture with hexagons or something like that, like some sort of crazy armor, I tend to use only a couple important brushes. Giving that gauntlet a bit of a glow. I can talk a little bit about references. So pretty much for every piece I work on, I will make another image. I usually set it to 1400 by 2000, as I find that's not super large, that it'll eat up your RAM or anything, and it's a good tall dimension that it can sit next to your painting while you're working. And I just I'll either start drawing a really rough sketch so I get the idea down and then research, or if it's something that's obviously more research intensive, I will go right into grabbing images and I'll just put those next to the character or whatever I'm painting, so that I can always look back and forth with what I'm doing and make whatever I'm doing look as realistic as I possibly can. Until you really build up your visual library, references are invaluable. I'm just touching up some things now. This piece is at the point where I kind of had a good feel for where everything was going, so didn't need my references as much. Just going into detailing things, setting up a levels adjustment layer to darken him a bit more, pop out some of those highlights as well. I've also been toying around with the idea of doing, either Twitch streaming or live streaming through Facebook or YouTube or something like that. So let me know if that's something you guys might be interested in, or even just doing a live Q&A session. I could talk about my workflow or do a demo or something like that. I find other artists' videos very helpful, so I thought I might do some of my own and see what you guys think. So yeah, we're getting close to the end. Just cleaning up things little by little. I had to go back and tweak some things a couple times after getting more feedback from the team. Overall, I was very happy with this concept. So yeah, thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you guys really enjoyed this. I look forward to hearing your feedback, and yeah, let me know if you learned anything from this. I'm always happy to talk to other artists.